What's up guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome to today's video, and specifically welcome to part 3 of our 1000 horsepower super build. Sorry if I sound a little funny, I'm a little bit under the weather still. I'm kind of recovering from this cold that I've had for like the last week and a half. I'm obviously super far behind where I wanted to go and be with this thing, so that just means we gotta go and work extra hard to try and catch up. Today's video, we're gonna be doing round 2 of our tweaked performance wiring harness, as well as some updates on our cooling fan setup. Now, as you can see behind me, I did make a little bit of progress that I just didn't bother recording. Honestly, it just wasn't really anything that needed to be recorded. If you saw my disassembly video, it's basically the same thing, but in reverse. Over here, we got the turbo reconnected. It's connected to the hot side intercooler piping as well. And we do have the whole front half of the motor reassembled, which is awesome. Pretty much all that entailed was replacing this guy, which is your cam gear back plate, with this guy right down here. That's actually gonna be your mounting plate for the mechanical fuel pump. After that, we got our cam gear bolts torqued down to 60 foot-pounds. I did get new gaskets on both the valve covers just for safety's sake, because they were cheap. It's like 40 bucks, 50 bucks, something like that, so I figure why not. And of course, our wonderful crank pulley friend, down to 239 foot-pounds. I gotta say, the crank pulley thing, I kinda wish I did record, because I'm a pretty little guy, and 239 foot-pounds, when you're torquing it across the side of the fender, it's kind of a lot. I also went through and relocated the fuel pressure regulator right here and just made this little firewall bracket. Anyway, but yeah, that was pretty much it. So I didn't think there was anything super crazy you guys wanted to see. One pro tip, by the way, for anybody that is installing a mechanical fuel pump, do yourself a favor, and before you put the pump on, install your serpentine tensioner, because I know you probably can't see this. There's actually one little bolt right up in here that you really can't get to if you install the pump first. So just pro tip right there. So anyway, that's where we're starting from. Let's go ahead and jump into the harness. Before I go pulling it out of the box though, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Cam and the guys over at Tweaked Performance. I am so unbelievably glad I went with this harness, you guys. It is awesome. It is so well put together. Basically what I did was the same harness that I had on the car originally. I went ahead and sent it back over to the guys at Tweaked so that we could run our 12 injector setup. They ran all new injector wires for the injector dynamic stuff. They even hooked us up with an oil temp sensor plug-in and one for our nitrous solenoid as well. So, and honestly, it was super affordable too. I think it was only like $250 or 300 bucks. They went through and added that. They added another Canon plug and everything like that for the firewall. So now we've actually got even more pins if we want to go and add more stuff later, which is awesome. So guys, thank you so much for hooking us up with that harness. It is fantastic. So first and foremost, since we are going to be running a second set of injectors, Cam actually went ahead and hooked us up with a little bit of a pinout, just so we can see which ones go with which. So obviously we got injector 1, it's just a red power wire, and then injector number 7 is going to be paired with one, it's a red on yellow. So, and then down here, we got J1 A10 for our oil temp, and then nitrous solenoid is going to be LS2. So full disclosure, if you see the white marks on a braiding, that's from Cam and the guys at Tweaked. If you see this stuff that looks all cobbled together with these silly little WeatherTech pins and stuff like that, that's me. So yeah, I'm not that great at wiring, which is why I wanted them to do it. But this thing's awesome. If you remember before, we only had the one big one on here, but now we have that second sub connector too. And we've even got a few unused pins in here. So if we look here, the main updates we're gonna see is gonna be with the injectors. Like this here is gonna be injector number 4 and its mate. And then went through and did that with every single one of these too, which is awesome. So that way you know exactly which one goes where. All right, so this one here is gonna be for our nitrous solenoid. And then our oil temp is gonna be this guy right here. Now, if you remember from the last video on the Tweaked Performance harness, basically what we did was ran a piece of safety wire down through the chimney here, and then kind of snaked up the Canon plug, and then reattached it to the plate and everything like that up this way, because if you try to go and shove all those connectors down this little hole right here, it really doesn't work too well. So the first thing we need to do before we go shoving this inside the car is gonna be pulling these retaining nuts off. So these are super simple. They're generally speaking just hand tight. So I couldn't find my spool of safety wire that I had laying around, so I just grabbed some spare 18 gauge wire, and we're just gonna go ahead and run that down through the chimney and tie a little loop on the end of it, and then go and tug up the harness. All right, so now we got our loop here. I don't know how well you guys can see this, hopefully you can. But what I'm gonna do is put this thing right around here. I'm gonna cinch it down right like that. And then try to give it as much of a head start as we can up here. And it is literally that easy. So we got plug 1 and plug 2. Just like that, guys. So now that we got these up here, we gotta go and throw the plate back on. And just like that, the hardest part of the harness is done. So after that, we just gotta go and connect up everything. So I'm probably gonna start on the inside of the car and then we'll move on to the outside. So every time I put the ECU cover back on, I think to myself, thank God this is the last time I gotta go and do this, right? And invariably, I want to pulling it back off for something or another. So my question to you guys is, what do you think I'll need to go and pull this thing back off for? Leave a comment in the section below, let me know. And just like that, the interior portion is done. By the way, Ryan, if you're watching this, dude, this purchase right here is because of you. So now we get to go in and move on to all of the fun stuff. So whenever you guys go to connect the Canon plug to the little receptacle right here, if you look right here, I'm gonna try to zoom in on this here. See this little notch in the ring? You're gonna go and line that up with this little notch right here. So if you look around the perimeter, there's a couple of little like kind of tiny divots, but the main one you're gonna wanna line up is that kind of longer one right there. So you line that up with that right there. And after a little bit of finagling, you'll know these things are in there because they'll actually like click really hard. Let me see if I can get it for us. Hold on. Of course, I gotta take it off now in order to do it. There you go, listen. Hear that? It's off, and then twist it, then it's on. Big one does that same noise. So the main thing you gotta watch out for when you're doing these coils is just to not pinch anything, because it's real easy to go and get it pinched, like right down here at top of this crossover line, or like even down in between the bracket itself and the valve cover. So then I come back through and run the actual coil pack harness. Once I get it generally situated and basically just run it back up through, kind of like the stock ones, you know, through the back up to the front, that kind of thing. So. So that's pretty much gonna do it for us tonight on the wiring harness bit. We really can't do anything else until I go and get the intake manifold built up and get the injectors in it. So as you can see here, I mean, pretty much all we got left is just injector stuff and then the idle air control and pretty much it. On to the next thing. As some of you may remember from the previous video, I was actually gonna go and do the stock IS300 fan shroud on the new PHR Radiator. However, if I were to go and use this like I wanted to, I mean, you got a sizable gap right here, all right? You got about 1.5 inch gap up here. This one is like halfway in the top of this to go and mount, and then I'd have to cross over up here. It wouldn't be mounted down here at all because the nearest mounting point's over there, and we gotta go kind of like a horseshoe up and under basically to do it. This one's pretty close, so that would probably work. And that one's also kind of close, so that might work. But, and then of course you got these two up here. So with the gap on the stock IS300 fan shroud and not having really particularly good mounting points, I actually decided to go and pick up a PHR IS300 fan shroud, which as you can imagine mounts up absolutely perfectly. So we got a nice little mounting point there, up there, other two sides good as well. The main thing I really like about the shroud is just the fact that you don't have any gaps really. I mean, there's a small one right here, but like it goes all the way to this side and to that side too. One other thing too, like if you look at the website, the advertising for this doesn't actually have these little flappy things here. I think it just opens it up a little bit to where you can have constant airflow through it as you're going down the highway and not be putting any additional pressure on this or the mounting points on the rad. So I'm gonna figure out a good spot to put you guys, and then we're gonna go and get the fans pulled off of the old shroud and put them onto the new one, drop the rad in. I don't think I'm gonna actually have time to go and make the 20 AN lines tonight, so I'll be doing those tomorrow, and then we'll get this thing cut and uploaded for you guys. So let's go ahead and get moving on the fans. So after we go through and pull the screws out, we're gonna have to go and pull this nut off. Then the fan blades are gonna go and pull out, and then we gotta go and push the fan motor out the opposite side. And then we're gonna mount those up to this guy. So good news is we got the motors out from the old shroud. Bad news is I had to go and drill out 4 out of the 6 screws that were holding these things on here. Unfortunately, I do not have any screws that are small enough to go in and attach these to the new shroud. So that is going to wrap up tonight's portion of the video, which is totally fine because it's about 2 o'clock in the morning and I got to work. So I'll go through and pick up some screws and stuff tomorrow morning, and then we will finish up the fan shroud and then show you guys how to make 20 AN lines as well. So I will pick you guys up in about 3, 2, 1. We're back. I went by everybody's favorite tool shop and just picked up one of these big boys. 460 pieces of like bolts and stuff. So the ones that were in here were a little bit long, so I already went ahead and cut down all 6 of these that we need, and then that way we don't have to worry about any threads or anything like that getting stripped at all. We just got the hex bit. Let's go ahead and get these fan motors installed into the new shroud and get the fan blades and stuff on there bolted down, and then hey, let's go ahead and drop it in the car too. Why not? And that right there is what this is going to look like all installed. Alright guys, so we got all our bolts in here. I did wind up running into a slight technical problem on this one. This is going to be on the top, basically, yeah, what's that, This is going to be on the top passenger side bolt. The one that came with the kit for the shroud had this bolt in here. And as you can see, it's quite a bit shorter. So even when I went through and put the spacer on, this thing was only able to go and grab onto like, oops. When I went through and put the spacer right in here, as you can see, it was only able to go and grab onto like 1 thread. So when I tried to tighten it down, it just wasn't having it. So just got a little bit longer bolt and that fixed that. So easy peasy. Now the moment of truth. Will it fit? So for anybody that has not installed a radiator before, there are 2 little rubber donut things that actually go and sit on the bottom before it goes and slides into the rad support. And if you're ever having any difficulty getting that thing in there, lube it up, it'll pop right in. My lube of choice for something like that is this diesel oil that I had sitting around from last time I changed the oil on the old tow rig. All right, guys, so now that we got the PHR radiator and shroud installed, we're gonna go and cover the upper and lower radiator hoses. What I did was I actually went and picked up the PHR DIY kit just from those guys because it already had the tubing. And I actually went through and priced out all the fittings and everything myself, and it wound up being pretty much the same price, just with multiple shipping charges, so I just went ahead and bought it from them. Basically, what the kit is gonna include is 4 different 20 AN fittings. You got 4 of these guys, they're like little weld-on bungs. So basically, so you can go and weld one onto the upper part of the radiator, one on the lower part, and then obviously your upper and lower water necks as well. And of course, no kit would be complete without this 3-foot section of 20 AN hose. So basically what we're gonna do for this, this is gonna be roughly where the fittings are gonna be installed once they're actually done. They come apart into 2 different pieces. Now that we got these things assembled here, we're gonna take our hose. I like to start with a fresh, clean cut. So what I'm gonna do is mark this one, and then we're gonna pull it straight across, basically mark it right there in the middle of that. All right, so now that we got these marked, basically we're just gonna go and double check this. We're just gonna double check this right quick. You got middle and middle. Now keep in mind that these fittings, these are only 2-piece fittings, so when we go to do the fuel lines, it is going to be a completely different process, just because we're going to be using braided Teflon on the fuel stuff. So just FYI. Let's go ahead and make some nice clean cuts, and I'll show you guys how to assemble this stuff. So now that we got this done, as you can see, matches up almost perfectly. Whenever you guys are doing these, by the way, it's always a good practice to go, especially with as large diameter as this line is, just go and take some paper towels or shop rags or something like that and just run it down and clear out any debris that might have built up in there from when you were cutting. Another thing that's gonna be different, don't tape your lines, otherwise they're gonna look like this. Oops. Whenever you're measuring too, just as an FYI to you guys, you do have about, I don't even know what that is, probably 1/4 inch or so of threads on here that you need to make sure you account for on either end. So do leave yourself a little bit of room on there. Not a tremendous amount, but at least enough to where you got that thread allowance on there. So after some considerable effort, basically what you're gonna wanna look for, I don't know how well you can see this in here, but that threaded ridge I talked about a second ago, you wanna get the line up into that point, right? Once it's there, you can go ahead and take these guys off of here, and then I'd recommend putting a little bit of lube right around here. We just go and slide that in and thread it down. So give me just a minute, I'll show you all the finished product. And there we got our finished product. And voila. So now that we got the upper hose done, we're gonna go and do the same thing with the lower one. It's gonna be basically the same process, just going through and pulling off the end caps, measuring everything, making sure it's all good to go and you're leaving the proper clearance. And then put it together and throw it on. So pretty simple. All right guys, so we just got done buttoning up the upper and lower radiator hoses. The top one is right there. I do still need to go and tighten it down. I need to go and pull the shroud and stuff back out just to go and tweak a couple things, but yeah, other than that, it's looking pretty good. And the lower one, so this here's the lower one. Obviously we got the radiator connector and stuff right there. And then, if you come over here, we had the 90-degree turn down from the thermostat housing. I do still need to go and get a crow's foot so I can go and actually tighten this down, but other than that, it's pretty good to go. Pro tip when you're installing this, by the way, drop the sway bar down. Makes it way easier because otherwise it chafes right up there and it makes it really, really hard to go and get it threaded on. All right guys, so that's gonna do it for today's video. I really hope y'all enjoyed it. You found it useful. If you did, please smash that like button. If you have any questions, comments, anything like that, please drop me one in the section below. Other than that, I will see y'all very soon in the next video. We got an intake manifold to assemble and install and then fuel lines to run too, so definitely got some more coming. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I will see y'all very soon in the next video. Catch you next time.